kick things off by introducing my two partners, Mark Greenbaum and Brian Anderson, to take the stage to talk about the state of digital marketing. This is our sort of seminal kickoff presentation last year when Mark and Brian presented this, and we posted it online. It this summer achieved over 1 million unique IP addresses, views, and downloads. So it was an extremely popular deck, and I look forward to this year's. Mark, take it away.
Great. Jerry. Yeah, so Mark Greenbaum, I run M&A execution here at LUMA. So let's talk about the state of digital marketing. I'm going to kick off with a market update. And again, just quick review. Terry kind of covered this. When we talk about our market, is that intersection of media marketing and technology, so content, MarTech, ad tech, all seen through the lens of mobile. Starting with the data, let's go inside the numbers. The public multiples, these are prices for ad tech and MarTech. You see ad tech in the orange, MarTech in the blue. You're kind of seeing some stabilization in MarTech. If you look at the ad tech numbers, if we remove the one new entrant and really look on a year-over-year basis, so the trade desk, you take them out of the population, you actually see the ad tech numbers down 7%. And these are prices. So if you take a look at what does that mean from a multiples perspective, dominant by revenues, you saw marketing tech kind of come down meaningfully in Q1, have started to stabilize, down 14%. Again, if we take the trade desk out of the data, the new entrant out of the data, you see what's happened in the ad tech space, multiples down 45%. And keep in mind, this is in the context of revenues that are growing pretty meaningfully, 25%, 32%. So relatively unfriendly still in the public markets. What's driving pricing there? You don't need to look too hard to see the correlation. It's really growth. Growth is driving multiple across both ad tech and MarTech. We see that continued to be consistent. In the IPO market, we did see, as we mentioned, kind of one new entrant since last we were on the stage at DMS West, the trade desk pricing in, I guess, the end of September, holding on at last check to that billion-dollar valuation. So perhaps one bright spot in the public markets for ad tech, perhaps a signal of more to come in the market. On the private side, we mentioned this kind of a noted change in sentiment on the funding environment it felt last year. We see that play out in the numbers with VC funding down across certainly MarTech, meaningfully in ad tech as well. So dollars challenging. That said, for differentiated companies, they are still raising. So about 36 companies on this page that have raised 20 million or more in the private markets in just the last year. So for differentiated companies, the capital is available, but the overall funding environment continues to be a bit challenging. So none of that's great news. We think about where is the bright spot in the market. And I don't say this just purely because I'm an M&A banker, but the M&A market has remained strong with a number of scaled exits. These are just the ones over 100 million, including one announcing this morning with the TubeMogul deal acquired by our soon-to-be on the stage players at Adobe here. But we've seen meaningful amount of M&A. And interestingly, if we look at the valuations paid, so the revenue multiples in the M&A deals at a meaningful premium to where the public companies have traded. On MarTech, averaging 8 times for the deals that are scaled exits over 100 million versus where the markets trade around 5 times. But in ad tech, 6 times revenue is the average of those larger deals against the public markets trading at really 1 to 1.5 times. What's driving that? We've been talking about the increasing pool of strategic buyers. And in our conversations, educating buyers about the ecosystem, certainly seen activity among the usual suspects, the enterprise software players, the ad tech players, even the agencies. But the new entrants, telcos, have been very active. We think more to come. We're definitely in the middle of a handful of conversations. Expect more announcements on that front. And a couple of topics we'll spend more time on this stage about. Private equity has entered the space in a meaningful way, as have international buyers. Private equity, and again, we'll have the conversation on the stage about life after private equity, but we have seen private equity step at big, in particular for MarTech assets, paying multiples that we typically see associated more with strategic buyers. And then certainly another topic we'll spend time on this stage with our topic on Here Comes China. We've seen Chinese buyers step up meaningfully for ad tech players. So more on those topics to come. So that's the market. Let me hand it over to kind of Mr. Marketing Tech, if you will, our own Brian Anderson, to take you through the industry trends.
Great. Thank you, Mark. All right. Thank you all for coming. We're thrilled that you can be here. So I'm going to cover 5 trends. So the rise of artificial intelligence, ad tech, martech, convergence, that's a topic that you're going to see us cover at every DMS, going forward for years, I imagine. New age marketing automation, B2B marketing, some sub-themes within B2B marketing, and then performance marketing. So, I've been noticing a lot of articles, a lot of buzz about AI in the last year, and in particular in the last 6 months. So I really liked this article from Forbes, and in particular this quote, where it resonated with me that, it talked about AI in general. It seems like there's a lot of disillusionment or kind of just chaos in the market. How do you apply it? Does it work? Does it not work? I think we are going to move to amazement very soon. And one thing we have to recognize, AI is really early. This is a recent projection, and what this reminds me of is the programmatic advertising market. And so on the left-hand side, that would be 2010 in programmatic, when people were experimenting, trying to see how does it work, how do I do it? And then as they saw how effective it was, the market just took off. I think we're going to see the same exact thing in both ad tech and martech with artificial intelligence. And I'm not the only one. The CEO of Google has talked about how they're going to apply machine learning across search, ads, YouTube, Play, basically their whole portfolio. IBM is talking about the biggest bet in their 105-year history around AI and cognitive computing. And even the president's weighing in. This just came out last month, preparing for the future of artificial intelligence. Most of this talked about self-driving cars and those kind of things, but marketing is going to be a big user of AI. And one thing that we've seen is AI and AI kind of sub-technologies have been applied in the industry for some time. But the way I look at it, it's really been kind of applied at the edge. So in display advertising, it's bid optimization and creative optimization, or doing real-time personalized content insertion for email and for content on websites. What I do think that you're going to see in the very near term is AI being moved more to the core, to coordinate all the activities across these channels. And I'll talk about that a little more in the ad tech, martech, convergence section. And one thing you'll hear me kind of use interchangeably, predictive analytics, machine learning, cognitive computing, deep learning. I know a data scientist would be horrified, but it's basically kind of AI, or technologies that encompass AI technologies. So moving to ad tech and martech convergence, we've been using this slide now for years, where when I was at Omniture and we got acquired by Adobe in 2009, these were very distinct industries. There was almost no connection between ad tech and martech. But then over the years, with the evolution of ad tech to data-driven advertising and martech for data-driven marketing, you've seen that data layer become the glue that pulls these together. So DMPs and planning and attribution systems, online, offline. And so you're seeing a lot of activity here. We just added, you can see Adobe buying TubeMogul there in the ad tech section, but one note there, Amit Ahuja, who runs the audience business for Adobe, can no longer make the conference because he has to be at the all-hands meeting there. That's really showcasing the connection between audience and the buying platform there. So another ad tech, martech convergence data point. So a couple things I want to talk about within this convergence is the evolution of data technologies and identity. And we have 2 panels today. The first one, ad tech, martech convergence, is really on this top one. And then we have a whole panel on identity as well. So if you look at data management platforms, when Demdex launched in 2010, one of the early DMPs, it was really a cookie management platform for display advertising. And even narrower than that, it was cookie management for display advertising for publishers. But over the years, you've seen both the capabilities and the use cases of DMPs expand. So adding data analytics and tag management within the platforms, expanding to drive personalization on the web and A/B testing. And then with the explosion of mobile devices and mobile usage, obviously they would be useless platforms if they didn't have really robust mobile capabilities, so a lot of investment there. And then it has been kind of church and state between the DMPs and CRM systems, anonymous data and PII. We are seeing a lot more blending of these data sets, across the ecosystem. And it's going to be really interesting to watch, what Salesforce does when it closes and integrates the Crux acquisition that's currently pending. And, Terry and I have been talking about the DMP space as being one of the key intelligence layers of advertising. It's really expanded to be one of the key intelligence technologies, for marketing in general that includes advertising. I think Forrester got it right in their last report. DMP is at the center of the marketing cloud, bridging the gap between ad tech and martech. And with the DMP at the center, the marketing cloud will be the hub of enterprise intelligence. I agree with those statements 100%. And one thing we have to recognize is this is actually still a pretty early industry. Large enterprises around the world are just implementing DMPs and understanding how to use them and getting their own first-party data assets in place. I think one thing that you're really going to see grow dramatically is data sharing. So second-party data sharing. Once you have your first-party data assets in place and you have complementary companies, why not put those second-party data sharing arrangements in place and then leverage each other's data assets, as well as I think you'll see more data co-ops as well. And this is really what Adobe's doing when they talk about their data co-op leveraging all their DMP clients. So another thing that we're watching is if you look at the marketing clouds, what have they done, which is logical, is they've been consolidating the point solutions. So Salesforce has been very active this year, buying Crux and Demandware. And we talked about how use cases have been expanding, like DMP is used for web personalization. Email systems have also been expanding, adding SMS and social. But I think where you're going to see in kind of phase 2 of all this is the orchestration layer. I talked about AI, but I think, and you see early efforts here with the marketing clouds trying to pull these all together, but I think this is going to be really a lot of core and a lot of advances with orchestration that'll include AI, but rules-driven approaches, et cetera, to really figure out, send what to who, at what time, across what channel. And this is going to drive even further convergence of ad tech and martech. On identity, we've been using variations of this slide now for a couple years, but it's been getting broader and deeper, meaning there are more participants on this slide, and they've been making more and more investments in this area. We've long talked about Oracle because they've been the most active, bought Blue Kai, took the data exchange, created the data cloud, then bought Datalogics, launched the ID graph, and this year acquired 2 more businesses, AddThis and Crosswise, to really fill in behavioral data and cross-device data within their ID graph. But others obviously making big efforts as well. We've already talked about Adobe, Facebook with their people-based marketing efforts. Neustar, combining their Targus, aggregate knowledge, and market share assets, have been making a big push into identity. And then Acxiom, the LiveRamp business there, is driving a bunch of their growth. It's really a core strategic asset within that business. And you hear about the identity graphs, and I do think these are critically important to enable the targeting within the environment. So so companies are putting their first data assets in place with DMPs. There's lots of third-party data out there as well. But the identity graphs, on an individual level, can organize all this information, for each individual so that you can target them appropriately. And while most of it traditionally has been used for targeting purposes, I do think you're going to see this used more and more across the kind of MarTech portfolios for planning and measurement as well. So new age marketing automation. These are a couple slides we've used in the past as well. The one on the left, predictive marketing, we started talking about 2.5 years ago, where we started to see certain segments of the industry not adopt DMPs as readily. namely e-commerce companies. And they were adopting these platforms that were blending both PII data and cookie-based data or anonymous data. And they would pull in purchase data from those systems. They would integrate with web analytics or tag management systems or directly tag the website. And then also have a product feed. So you put together long-term purchase behavior, short-term browsing behavior, with a product catalog and a predictive analytics engine, you can figure out, okay, well, what should I show this individual next? And really enable one-to-one personalization at scale. And then they would coordinate the execution channels with email and web and ads, et cetera. Last year we talked about the rise of mobile marketing automation companies. So, consumers are downloading less apps. It's really expensive to acquire those users, and most of them are free. So, for those app publishers, what do they need to do? They need to make sure that users are using those apps and driving value for them. And so they are, implementing these systems to drive coordinated messaging, in-app push notifications, email, as well as optimization capabilities like A/B testing and then analytics to understand what's happening. But if you look across both these companies, what do? Really, they're managing data. A lot of them are kind of new age CRM systems, and then they have orchestration layers. So we just talked about the marketing clouds, where they've started with the channels and then have been adding orchestration. These guys are kind of the reverse. They are starting with the data and the orchestration layer, and some of them may be email-centric, or obviously the mobile guys are mobile-centric. But if they want to expand their capabilities and expand the channels that they can address, there are companies like SendGrid. So a lot of these companies, there's like, what? I don't need to build a whole engine. I can just license in SendGrid and add that channel. And so you're seeing companies like the mobile marketing automation companies becoming more general marketing automation companies by implementing things like utilizing SendGrid and sending emails as well. So I think you are going to see kind of mini battles out there as far as the marketing clouds pushing their channel-centric, moving to orchestration, and these guys, going the other direction. And you could definitely make a case for some of the marketing clouds to add some of these capabilities through acquisition as well. So B2B marketing, last year we talked about a couple trends. Account-based marketing, which is all about, for B2B marketers, providing the right message at the right time to the right account, and predictive analytics applied to B2B marketing. So identifying prospects and doing intelligent lead scoring, and that really folds into account-based marketing as well. This has, grown, dramatically in the last year, and that's why we have a panel on account-based marketing that does include predictive analytics as well. So the new one we want to talk about is the convergence of MarTech and sales tech. So we already talked about the convergence of ad tech and MarTech, but that's really for B2C marketers. If you're a B2B marketer with an expensive sales force, it's really MarTech and sales tech working together. And that's why we have put together, as Terry showed in that video earlier, the sales tech LUMAscape. So this is available on our site if you're interested in checking this out. But one thing that's interesting to note when you look at the companies on the sales tech LUMAscape, Salesforce has obviously grown a massive, terrific business, but the CRM systems are really focused on the management layer, making them more effective. And so you see an explosion of companies that are focused on the actual salesperson, making the salesperson more effective. And so this is an area that we're definitely seeing more VC investment and a lot of growth, and I think you're going to see some interesting things coming out of these sales technology companies. Last, performance marketing. So some of you may be thinking, why is he talking about performance marketing? I remember the old toolbar companies or incentive sites and all that, and a lot of people think about this as like, okay, they say they're going to drive incremental sales, but this really is kind of scammy type businesses, and stay away from that. But what is performance marketing today? It's these guys. And how are they doing? Well, in May, we talked about how in Q1 this year, Morgan Stanley came out with a report saying Google and Facebook basically captured 85% of all incremental ad spend. So that's tough for the rest of the ecosystem trying to grow their business with that remaining 15%. But what happened? Q3 just announced. Where did that go? 0, actually less than 0. It was estimated 103% is what these guys captured. So the rest of the industry is shrinking. So that's obviously even tougher. It makes our life easier, when we're mapping the LUMAscapes. But there is good news here still. It's we've long talked about Criteo and our admiration for that business, where a long time ago, I remember meeting them when I was at Omniture in like 2009. They went after the search budgets and said, hey guys, you're used to buying on a CPC. We'll do the same thing with search, just allocate some of your search spend. And they did, and just like search, it was always on campaigns that their customers would spend up to the efficient frontier. Terrific business, you can see it in the results. App11, many of you read about the $1.4 billion acquisition. A lot of people don't know a whole lot about App11. The financial profile of this company is staggering. The growth is phenomenal. The profitability is ridiculous. And they grew a business that was a massive business, or is a massive business, with a number of salespeople you can count on one hand. Seriously. And why? It's because their technology works and they align their pricing with their customers. Customers love it, so they get in there and they just spend more and more and more. And so, we've long been talking about this evolution of pricing models in advertising, from the old CPM models all the way up, from CPC to CPA, driving whatever action that marketer is trying to drive. And if you have these kind of models, you can create terrific businesses. And that's why we have a panel, with these companies here talking about performance marketing and what they're doing in the industry. And actually, Hook Logic was just acquired by Criteo, with that deal closing this week. And lastly, a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, Criteo is an ad network. Well, actually, let's compare Criteo to arguably the most successful SaaS subscription business, Salesforce. So this year, they have outperformed Salesforce on revenue growth, and they also are doing that at a lower sales and marketing cost as a percent of revenue. It's a terrific business that has a lot of predictability, a lot of leverage. And that's what these other companies that have these type businesses are doing as well. It's very different than the media businesses, which right now the public companies are not growing, and they have much higher sales and marketing costs in general. So that is it for this year's trends.